everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Mind of Reese. I am pretty stoked to be getting into this conversation because it just goes to show what you focus on will perpetuate. So now let me explain. I have several VIP clients in my containers right now. So I have three. So two of these artists whom I love very much and who are killing it in the game are, they started to talk about a recession happening. And, I was like, oh, and they're like, yeah, I'm getting cancellations, this recession, where I live in a small town, just all of these different little things. I started to notice that they were utilizing as in order to really justify the reasons why things were happening in their lives the way that it was. And I found this very interesting. And of course, as we walk through this, I'm always the type of person that doesn't want to say no, that might not be. I don't know. Maybe the recession is making things weird. I mean, for me, I didn't know that there was even a recession going on. But, for some people, once it's in their brain, it can kind of be a point of focus. And then we can kind of blame a lot of things and utilize it as an excuse, although justifiably it could be a good one as to the reasons why things are happening, and it could very well be, for sure. Because once it gets into one person's brain, it could be spreading like wildfire and things are going. But I have another inner circle artist who is not saying a thing and doesn't feel like anything has happened, the recession or nothing. Didn't even know about the recession and things are just going beautifully. And not in the way that nobody's canceling, just in the way that she is seeing things. And so this is where you put your attention is where you put your energy. And where you put your energy is going to be how literally either depleting it might be or giving it might be. So if I'm going to be taking from the energy field because I'm thinking thoughts that are making me feel like things aren't working, that means that I'm having to hold myself in this energy, then I'm going to perpetuate things not working. If I'm looking at things like things are working and I'm giving this good energy out there, I'm going to perpetuate a reality of things working, right? Your eyes can only see and your ears can only hear what your brain is looking for. So if I'm looking for all the reasons why things aren't working, I'm going to create evidence in my reality that things are not working. If I'm looking for all the things where things are working, I'm going to create evidence for things working in my life and my business. And so this is where I came up with this topic of cancellations. If you're receiving them, here are the 4 things that I do, and here are the 4 identity shifts that I have made, and I also lead my artists to making, and how I see you. If you make these shifts, you can totally change how you see cancellations, but also how you see your entire business. Okay? And so getting into this, for me, the way I look at a recession and things like this, it's I can look at it from a perspective of yeah, things are not working. I don't know. The way I looked at the pandemic, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not obviously going to say that the pandemic is not real and I'm just going to shut it off and act like nothing's happening. That's not the case. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to take it into account. But how do I want the recession or the pandemic to feel in my body? I'm just going to be like, well, I will definitely keep it into consideration, but I am the master of my fate and I'm the captain of my soul, as Ernest Hensley would say. Ernest William Hensley would say. I have it tattooed on the back of my neck. I am the master of my destiny. So it's okay, so I'm going to keep it in mind because it is a part of the 3-dimensional world. But I'm also a spiritual being in a human experience. So I'm going to utilize my 5th dimensional thinking and channel the energy of that 5th dimensional thinking, that quantum thinking, and understand it from a perspective of well, I'm capable of magic. I could literally have a million idea planted in my brain this very moment, and utilize that in the reality of the 3-dimensional world. I mean, we have so many works of evidence that could create how a recession, a depression, a pandemic, could be the trajectory of everybody falling apart or everything coming together. I mean, just look at Henry Ford, when the Great Depression was happening, or Charles Schwab. When the Great Depression was happening, what were these people doing? They were making it work. So let's not get it twisted, okay? There's plenty of evidence out there for how things could work during a time where we think that things aren't, especially when we're just going to blame and give our power away to something outside of us just to justify the reasons why we're feeling the way we're feeling, or that things are happening the way they're happening. And I love you, and I'm going to give you a little tough love here, as I give all of my artists and students, is that you are a victim to your own circumstances, and you can also choose not to be. If you want to stay in the third dimensional realm of victim consciousness, be my guest, but I won't be there for you in that. And that's what I love about having these inner circle one-on-ones, is that like I am not going to argue for your potential. I'm going to argue for your potential, but I also understand that if you're not arguing for yourself, that there's nothing else further I can say. And so I'm going to allow you to speak, and then allow you to say what you need to say, and then come back at you with all the evidence that it could work. Because there's so many stories and evidences, and even your own, that you can even draw from. I have evidence of my own that I could draw from. In the pandemic, I made more money that year than I did the year before, and the year before that, than 2018, 2017, 2019. In 2020, I opened up a tattoo shop, and in 2020, I was working less, and I was just like, wow, and I'm making more. But people were like, their spending habits were different in 2020. And these are the things that it's like, we just have to understand there's always a way to make things work. We might have to get imaginative about it, but the only way that we can tap into creator consciousness, fifth dimensional consciousness, is by going up into that space. If I'm going to stay in victim consciousness, and I'm going to stay in survival mode, and in survival mode, all I'm going to be doing is being in convergent focus, where I'm only focusing on the things that are not working and how do I survive through this. That's just your survival human in you. But if I'm going to open up my perspective and understand that like I got me, and that my potential is limitless, and there's numerous opportunities and possibilities where I could just have a seed planted in my mind that's going to give me this idea that could spawn a whole different trajectory of the reasons why things are canceling or why things are happening, and why I'm meant to move in different directions. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of people thanking the goddess that the pandemic happened, because it made them quit their jobs and do something they loved and all this stuff. And then there are thousands and thousands of people that hated the fucking pandemic and said it ruined their life. So we can choose. We can choose. There is a difference. And we have thousands on both sides that have had similar things happen to them. Losing your job, losing loved ones, losing lots of stuff. Like humans have this tendency to really fear loss. And so they would rather stay in the mediocre and staying exactly where they are, just so they don't have to feel like they're losing anything. But then when they're forced to lose something, they can look at it from two different perspectives. It's like, I can either give my power away, or I can either keep my sovereignty and keep my power and move forward in a way that's really going to be supportive to me and to everyone around me. And so the first thing, as we get into this, let's talk about first, like 4 things I do when cancellations happen. So these are the 4 actionable strategic steps that I take in order to alleviate cancellations happening. Yes, because, don't get me wrong. In the last 2 months, it's so rare for me to get cancellations. And it's even more rare. I think it hasn't even happened. I think it happens like once a year, if that, when people no call, no show. But I had 2 no call, no shows almost back to back on maybe only a few weeks apart for 2 days in a row. So each day I probably anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 I'm making. So we're talking about like $4,000 appointments if I'm going on the upper side of the end of the money financial scale. And I'm like, oh, and that happened twice. And so that's, $8,000. And then I received a cancellation literally back to back. That's another, that's $12,000 in total that I could have been making and did not, because people are canceling. People decided no call, no show. And then all of a sudden I hear this thing about the recession, and I could have totally been like, oh, that might be it. Yeah. That's why it's happening. And it could very well be. I don't know why people cancel. You know what I mean? But I have systems in place to make sure that it alleviates me from when these things happen. So number one thing I do is I create the systems. I create the boundaries and the systems within my business already to hold people accountable for the things that they do. I charge $1,000, I believe it is, or I think $750 for 2 days back to back. And now I think we're gonna raise it just because of the fact that that just doesn't cut it, and we really want people to stick to their word. So if this is gonna happen, this is what happens when someone cancels. I'm like, you know what? If this is happening 3 times in a row, I'm just going to assume that I need to change the structures within my business, because now it's kind of starting to hurt a little bit. So I'm like, okay, so let's go do this. Instead, I'm going to change my policies. It's $500 per day. If you skip out on a double day, you lose your deposit. Nobody wants to lose out on $1,000. That sucks. You know what I mean? You're going to be in it. Nobody wants to lose out on $750, but don't know what's happening there, so we're going to raise it again. So, we do that. There we go. Number 2 is I never worry. That's actually number 1. Number 1, it should be I never worry. Number 2 is putting up the boundaries. But, I had it the other way around when I wrote it down. But number 1, don't worry. There's no real positive energy that comes from worrying. And a lot of people might argue with me on that one. Oh, but if I worry about this and I worry about that. No. If you stress can be a reactive situation to get you to move. But if I'm going to continue to stress, which means I'm going to worry, worry is just longevity of stress. Let me just hold my stress for long periods of time. Reactive stress is just really quick adrenaline rush. Let's go. And then you're done. This is like animals, deer, here's a lion in the woods. It stresses out for a second, then automatically goes back to homeostasis once it realizes it's safe. But with worry, you are telling your body that you're not safe and that you should not be safe, and you're never safe is essentially what's happening. And so your body stays in fight or flight, stays in convergent focus, stays in survival. And what do we do when we're in survival? We're only looking at the things that are going to save us from things not working. So we're always looking for the things that are not working. Why? Because we're so afraid of things not working. We're going to constantly be trying to avoid things not working, that we're almost going to perpetuate things not working, because that's where our focus is, right? What you hear, what you see is what your brain is, that you're only going to see and you're only going to hear what your brain is looking for. So it's like, if I'm going to try to avoid all the shit that I don't want to happen, that's all that's on my mind, I'm confusing the universe and letting them know, oh, maybe since she's focusing so much on it, maybe this is what she wants. And so I'm going to be asking for more of the thing maybe I don't want. Because there is no logic in the universe. There's no logic in energy. There's no logic in quantum. There's no black and white. That's a human thing. Black and white, yin and yang, all this, it's there's so many gray areas. There's no yes and no, right and wrong, black and white kind of vibes in the quantum. Everything is just based off love. Everything's just based on energy. And so it's like, cool, yeah, it doesn't look at energy as negative or bad. It doesn't look at emotions as negative or positive. Whatever emotion, if it's an extreme emotion, it's going to perpetuate to magnetize more of that extreme emotion for you, because it thinks it's what you want. So if you're going to be worrying for long periods of time, you are literally magnetizing more worry, more things to worry about to you. And so we want to worry is psychologically, scientifically, just a moot emotion. It's great for some things, and we sometimes look at worry as like, I care, but I can care and not worry. Like I tell my clients all the time in my one-on-ones, I am not worried about you. When they're worried about themselves, I tell them because I see the capabilities within them. I know they can get their shit done. They're here. They're literally in a mentorship where they believed in themselves so much so that they decided to take not only the financial leap, but the identity, the emotional leap, the energetic leap to also put themselves in a room where it might have scared them a little bit at first, but now they're moving. And now they're like showing up and they're shifting at like quantum speeds. So I don't really worry about anybody because I know you have the fucking limitless potential within you to get your shit done. If I do, you do. We're not different, you and I. So that's how I look at it. So worry is a energetic depleting thing. Worry just causes more cortisol, and no offense, but I'm trying to stay away from cortisol. I'm not trying to get old and look old, you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to age faster. I'm not trying to get more wrinkles. Like yes, okay, your girl can be. Like I like the way I look. I want to stay that way, and I'm not going to put myself in a position to cause more, like to spread my life thin because of something that I have no control over. I can't control what's happening around me, but I can control what's happening inside of me. Always. Okay, so number 2, which we should switch to number 1, is don't worry. Number 2, create the boundaries, right? Okay, and then number 3. So if I have a cancellation, I have the boundaries, I'm not worried, I ask myself, okay, do I actually want a tattoo on those days? If it's like super soon happening, what do I want to do? Like, let's say, like for instance, we had a couple of cancellations that happened maybe a week prior to the days that were coming. And I was like, well, let me ask myself the question, do I actually want a tattoo? The reason why I ask myself this question is because maybe the universe is offering me exactly the thing that I need, that I've been asking for inadvertently, subconsciously. Maybe I'm like tired. Maybe I need this space. Maybe, in which this is honestly what I believe is happening right now, maybe I planted the seed that I really wanted to focus on my education, the educational side of my business, so that I can grow and scale that, so that when I go back into tattooing, my schedule is a little bit better and the programs that I'm having are like on fire, so good, transformational, like I love them. And my branding and all of this stuff, there were all these things I wanted to focus on, and I've been telling my assistant Kayla, oh, I want to focus on this, I want to do this, I want to do this and do this, and we're just like trying to find the time to have these meetings and do them. Well, all of a sudden I had the time to do these meetings and do them. I literally put it out there, and I am a master manifester. I will tell you, we all are. And so it's like, I am a manifesting generator. I can manifest things several times at once. I don't know if you know your human design, but definitely that's me. And when I put my mind to something, it's like I manifest it. And even when I'm like, fuck, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to take away profits from the actual business so that I could put time in there. But you know what? I always look at it from my highest alignment. I'm like, you know what? I did ask for this, and you know what? We're going to fucking kill it. And to be perfectly honest, we did above and beyond what I had expected. We rebranded the business. We rebranded the social medias. We also were able to get even clearer on what it is that we're doing next, all the launching that we're having. Right now I'm in InkSpired Academy. We're in IA season, and it's fall season, and just getting really in the energy and the emotional identity shift in this as well, and launching is always really tough for most people, for everybody, not for most, for everybody. And if you've never launched, highly recommend getting into Booked Out. Launching is just like the biggest time saver of a lifetime. It's like the biggest time saver ever, because I don't have to be on social media 24/7 if I decide not to. I have a launching period, which allows me to, invite people into what I'm doing for for like a short period of time. So it's like having a burst of energy. It's like taking a sprint, I don't want to have to be on social media 6 days a week selling something, although I do love it. I do actually really love being on social media and creating content because I just am really good at it. But if that's not your thing, there's personally, we can get into a conversation about your relationship with social media and how that should be changing because you are an entrepreneur and not just a tattoo artist. But I would just recommend going into InkSpired Academy and buying that. And if you do, you get booked out for free. So yeah, little shameless plug in there. There's just all these things that I'm teaching in all of my, podcasts and all of my content. It literally they are in one of my programs or in all of them in some capacity, weighs heavier in others and others. So it's like, if you just, like I always think when you invest in yourself, you literally collapse time around where you are and where you want to go. I always say that. I'm like, I never not have a mentor. I always have a mentor. I've had a mentor in my life for the last 3 years. I've never gone without one because I don't ever want to be without one. I always see my 10x back from that. So that's a whole other story. When I mean 10x, I mean like I literally 10x my income, my identity, who I am, who I become, my business, the team, everything. So anyway, let's keep moving. So I ask myself, sorry, I don't have ADHD, but I swear sometimes I do. So going back to asking myself, do I actually want a tattoo? Or am I asking, or did the universe offer this to me? Because I have actually been asking for other things. So for instance, with this last one, I was like, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and take the 2 days off. And, well, actually, how this really happened was I was like, well, I want a tattoo. So let's try and book the Friday. And then let's try and book the other 2 days that were canceled on. And so what I did was I was like, you know what? I'm going to put everything in. I'm going to literally put everything in. So I'm going to slash my prices, $75 off an hour. I'm going to put up my wanna-dos, and I'm going to say, these wanna-dos are 2 days each. I will give you both those days at the $75 off an hour. So that's like 10% off of my normal rate. And so it was like such a no-brainer price. A lot of people would, like a lot of my email list would like love that. So we were like, okay, let's go ahead and let's create really quick slides for stories. Let's get email lists together and let's create the urgency, right? Because that's what I teach in Booked Out. We're creating urgency. We're creating a short launching period of people to buy now. And so I did this and I was like, cool, let's send this email out. But if it doesn't work out where I'm still not tattooing on those days, I know I've done everything I needed to, and I will look at it as a success no matter what. I always look at every launch as a success no matter what. No matter whether or not I book the thing out, no matter how many people end up going into the program, no matter what, I learned something. Launching will always be your biggest reflectors of what you need to focus on internally, and will always help you find your biggest win. Like your biggest obstacles will always be the source to your greatest power. That is just a motto I live by because it is so real for me in my world. And so I put it out there. I was like, if this happens, if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, awesome. I'm good with it. I trust. And that's number 4 or number 5. That's the 5th thing I do when it comes to cancellation. I trust and I surrender. I have faith and I surrender, right? Because I have no control. Once the email is sent out, I have no control. And I don't want to give my power away to something outside of me. I don't want to make it mean something about me. Nothing that happens in my life has to mean anything about who I am. I can make it mean something about who I am, and I can make a qualitative shift. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have to mean anything. It could just mean, oh, that happened. Okay. Even if someone is in my face telling me that I did something wrong, I'm like, okay. And I could look at that. I could either take it. There's a lot of different avenues and reactions I could have to that. But at the end of the day, I know I don't have to take it personally. And even if I do, I can always walk myself through that as well. Because if I'm taking something personally, that I'm always going to look within and talk to my inner child, my inner teenager, whatever's going on within my survival body. Because when we take things personal, it's a straight up sign from the body that you're having a feeling, you're having a limiting belief, a shadow is being shined a light on. There's a shadow within you that is being poked. There's a wound within you that is being poked, and it hurts. And instead of shying away from that wound, I'll thank the person that shined that light on that, and then I'll go in and look within and start peeling back the layers of that wound and start to heal it. And so there's nothing in this world that we have to take so personal, and if we do, look at it as a beautiful sign as to why we are taking it personal. Because I believe that if anything is coming up for you right now, whether it be internally, externally, whatever it might be, it's always going to lead back to the internal, and it's always going to be the thing that you want, because your desires are always going to come with an obstacle. Your desires are leading you to a person you need to be in order to be that person that has what you desire. And that person that has what you desire is not the person you are today. So that means you're literally losing, like we talked about in the beginning, we have a loss of who we've been and who we want to be. And that's scary for the body. That's scary for the ego. To lose something. We'd rather stay in the comfort zone, right? We'd rather stay mediocre than change. That's 99% of the people on this planet. They would rather do realistic goals because they are so afraid of change. But the funny thing is about realistic goals, there is so much competition for people who want realistic, mediocre goals, because there are so little people out there that actually believe in their capabilities and their potential. And so it actually is a lot less competitive zone when you decide to go beyond the mediocre. When you decide to 10x. Breaking up this podcast episode to bring an announcement that IA is now ready for open enrollment. We are in pre-enrollment, baby. And this is the methodology that I go back to time and time and again to add more branches to my business. I mean, I sometimes can't even believe that I'm the CEO of a company that has 3-tiered business in it, from tattooing to a tattoo shop and running a team to also my educational side. But this is how I've done it. This methodology I go back to every single time I want to add another branch to this tree of this company, so that I can continue to grow and qualitatively shift, not only in my business in the material world, but also from a qualitative perspective of the identity shifts that we have to make in order to connect to the quantum and creator consciousness, and literally clean that connection to creator consciousness, to source, to spirit, to the universe, so that we can move from an aligned action in this 3-dimensional world from the human that is us. That is how we create soul-aligned businesses. So if you are looking to cultivate the confidence, the self-worthiness, and the success mindset that you truly own who you are, if you're ready to become a magnet to your soul community and your soulmate clients, to share your unique message and artwork in a creative way, raise your prices, start making 10K, 15K, 20K months, start booking out months and months in advance, creating the structures and systems so you can buy back more of your time and create more freedom so that you can build even bigger. Your tattoo empire is what I like to call it. Get on it now. And if you're hearing this is most likely after our big sale, where I'm offering a free one-on-one with me, which is a $444 value. That's a one-on-one with me that I'm going to give to you for free, plus booked out, which is a $666 value. So all in total, it's $1,444 in bonuses and sales. So you're not going to want to miss this. If you heard this here and we're not offering it anymore on the website link, which you can find in the show notes, you can DM me and I will give it to you. That's right. It's because I love you so much. So I'm hoping to see you in there. We start August 30th. Let's go. When you decide to make qualitative shifts 10xing means identity shifts. It doesn't mean 10x doing more. That's 2x linear thinking. That's mediocre shit. Let me do more of the same thing and expect different results. Let me do more of what I'm doing, just faster and harder, so I can make, 2x more money, or I can make a full-blown qualitative shift. And this is the reason why one-on-one mentorship is so fucking potent. It is so fucking potent because you're literally putting yourself in a room to be seen. And a lot of people don't want to be seen for who they really are because they don't actually like themselves, or and so they don't want to actually change because they know when they get into a room where someone actually sees them, they're like, holy shit, I have to actually hold myself accountable for this change. That's a hard thing to do. And so I don't blame anybody for not wanting to do it. I get it. It's sticky, it's contractive, it's tough. But when you're in the room and you finally do it, it's addicting. I'm telling you, I haven't been without a mentor in 3 years. I've spent $90,000, or actually now more than that. I spent $90,000 just last year in mentorship. This year, I mean, who even knows where we're going anymore? I don't even count anymore. I just know it's just a part of my journey. Like this, I make money because I want to make sure that I have it for these very reasons. And I know that I'm going to make it because these qualitative shifts are going to 10x everything in my life. So let's get into the identity shifts right now. So we were talking about the 5 different things. I said 4 at first, but I realized I gave you guys 5. So my bad. We're going to say 5. 5 things I do when it comes to a cancellation. And now the 4, basically the 4 identity shifts I make, not only for the cancellations, but as we get into this qualitative shifting, just overall in my business. So when it comes to the top 4 things that I know that like I've done to really create a lot of massive internal and external success, internal wealth and external wealth, internal abundance and external abundance, I'm telling you right now, you guys already know this though, because you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't, that your wealth comes from the inside out. I already know I'm worthy upon arrival. I'm already wealthy, and my wealth is the way that I look at life. It's the experience I have with life. If I'm only going to look at it from a tangible financial perspective, I'm always going to be chasing something because it will always get bigger and bigger and bigger. Trust me, I've been there. The first time I reached my first 50K, the first time I reached my first 100K, 200K, 300K. Every time I reach a new milestone, it doesn't feel any more fulfilling. The moment that I reached 350K one year, I was like, all right, I got to change some things around. Like, I am unhappy. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm not happy. Like, I'm making more money than I've ever made. And this is crazy. And then last year when I made such qualitative shifts, identity shifts, emotional shifts, energetic shifts, this is everything I teach in all of my programs. It's like what I ended up doing was I not only made more money, I doubled what I made the year prior, and I quadrupled what I made in my coaching business, but I 10x'd what I felt internally. I had never felt so fulfilled, so loved. I get a little teary-eyed just thinking about it because it's like the amount of times that I'm not very nice to myself. Not very nice about who I've been, who I am, who I was, and not very nice about my dreams and desires, not very nice about the things I've done. There's so many things. There was so much work I had to do internally for me to start feeling the wholeness of the human that I am, but just also the spiritual being, the perfect spiritual loving being that I am as well, and mixing both of them together. And being able to love all parts of it. That's why the heart chakra is the bridge. It's the bridge to your human and your spiritual being, because we're bridging the gap. The heart is the love. The heart is the unconditional love of like, I'm going to love you for who you are, the imperfect, perfect human that you are. But I'm also going to feel the creator oneness love from higher consciousness, from God consciousness, from the universe. And this is going to totally shift the way that I act, think, see, feel, and do things. And so, yes, you can do all the things with the cancellations, but these 4 shifts are really going to change the trajectory of your entire business. So the top 4 things that my top clients, like my top, not my top tattoo collector clients, but my top artist clients, the ones that normally do one-on-one inner circles with me, or the ones that take my programs with me, these are the most successful things that they do and that they follow. They utilize this as like their value system. It's not that like they had massive success because they have a huge following, or that one of their posts go viral, or it's not something crazy that happens, but they do all of these things. They like cultivate all of these things like right before they skyrocket. So the 4 inner shifts and the decisions that they make, number one, is they basically stop arguing against their dreams and they start advocating for their potential. You know how I said in the beginning, I was like, I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to argue with you about what's not working. I'm here to argue with you with what's working. I'm here to shine the light on what is working. Like, people can give me a long list of reasons for why things aren't working. And I'm going to beg the question. I'm like, are you here to get me to, like, justify it and to agree with you? Do you want me to agree with all the things that aren't working, or do you want me to advocate for your potential? And that's always something that, like, I notice within my clients who really make some gnarly identity and qualitative shifts, is that they begin to start arguing for their dreams, even when they're in the middle of a crunch, even when they are at rock bottom, when their fucking knees are on the ground and they're just like, holy shit, I am feeling it. Everything around me feels like it's falling apart. My relationships, my man, my business. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that my fucking success is inevitable. I just need to continue on this path. I know that all this shit is going to lead me. It's going to make the good shit feel so fucking good. And I know that if I stay with this, I'm going to come out a better person. Like, that shit is hard. That shit is hard to believe in it. And when they're telling me this, I'm over here rooting them on. And of course, I'm over here definitely advocating for that as well. So this is number one. Number two, they quit living their life in avoidance of pain and they start chasing what feels fucking good. Like I said, everybody is so afraid of loss. They're so afraid of losing something that they avoid it at all costs. And what do? They focus on what they don't want. And because they're trying so hard to avoid it, right? They're trying to avoid the pain. They're trying to avoid the thing they don't want. And yet what do? They end up going towards the thing they don't want anyway. So why not chase the good shit? Why not go after what feels good in the body? Listen to your second chakra. Listen to your sacral, your pleasure. What's the sense of pleasure? What does that bring you? And if you are having a hard time feeling through that, then it is really high time to start cleaning up the emotional aspect in you, why you feel shame around why you want what you want. A lot of the times we are in the life of avoidance of pain because we've been taught to do that. Our parents may have been like, well, I'm avoiding poverty, I'm avoiding being poor, so I'm going to constantly overwork, overwhelm, look at my, only validate through my work, how much money I'm making, only see success through those things. And so I'm constantly going to be chasing, or I'm actually going not even be chasing, I'm going to be avoiding, I'm going to be running away from. I'm always in survival. And when I'm in survival, I have no creative innovation. And when I have no creative innovation, of course I'm not going to get the $1 million idea I always planted in my brain. And the only reason why I've been saying $1 million idea is because a lot of you, I'm sure, have read Think and Grow Rich. Well, in there, it's like, it doesn't quite say the $1 million idea, but it's just like, it's talking about how we can literally, think about what it is that we want and create the opportunities and possibilities of getting to that point. And so if I'm going to focus on what feels really good, I'm going to open myself up to the visions, to the third eye, and to my crown, to receiving the idea, having the idea pop through the creator consciousness, because the universe is always trying to pop ideas into your brain of what it is that you desire. And if your desires are avoidant, if you're like, I just don't want this, I just don't want this, and if I'm only going to focus on that, it's going to give you more ideas on how you can avoid the thing, but the whole point is that the universe really wants to give you what you want. It doesn't understand what you don't want or what you do want. It just understands what you're focusing on. It only understands your energy. And if you're focused on the energy of avoidance, if you're avoiding the thing, it's going to give you more of it. So stop avoiding and start chasing what feels super fucking good for you. That's number 2. Number 3, long-term horizon. Are you in this business for a season or for a lifetime? If I'm looking at 2x linear thinking, this means doing twice as much, harder and faster, and getting 2x the results, maybe doubling, making a little bit more than what I'm making. I'm going to get burned out. So when I teach people, I just recently, we'll use this as an example. One of my clients, my one-on-one inner circle clients, she had just done her first launch. She's like never done a launch before. It was really nerve-wracking. She had been off of social media for a few months, and she just did this, and it didn't quite meet her expectations for how many people ended up signing up for her, for what's it called, for like her book's opening, and this really got to her. And I understood it, of course. I understand launches. Sometimes the launches are always going to be your biggest reflectors of where it is you need to focus on. And so there was this sense of like, she had changed all of these things within her structures of her business, but it didn't work out as fast as she expected them to. Now, when we do things that change our businesses, the material world is slow to catch up. So when we look at our business from a long-term perspective, from a legacy perspective, we are only going to see that the steps that we've taken today are the steps that are going to create sustainability for years to come, not just for tomorrow. People are always looking for the quick fix, but the quick fix never gets you to the long term. That's why whenever Instagram hacks, it's like hashtag this and use this hashtag strategy, and here's what the algorithm's doing today, and all of this stuff, like that will only last for 2 months until it changes again and again next month and again next month, and you feel so drained from how much you've had to change and shift all the things, instead of just going back to the actual foundations and laying down and solidifying a foundation that will get you through any changes that happen from a social media perspective. And this also goes in your business. If you don't know why you're here or why you're doing this thing, and you can't stretch the longevity of how long you are in this business for, then it's going to be really hard to grow. It's going to keep you stuck in the victim mentality of, why are all of these things happening to me? Well, this didn't work, so I'm not going to do it again. It's like, how many times, if I'm trying to get bigger biceps and I do 10-pound weights for 1 week, and all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, but it's not bigger, I'll quit, then yeah, you should quit. Because you obviously don't have the mindset of like thinking this is a lifetime, this is an internal shift, this is a personality shift, like this is a lifestyle change. When I'm looking at lifestyle changes or lifestyle, my standards are so high. I care a lot about transformation. I care and I value growth. And so I'm going to set myself up with the foundations that are going to help me do more of that. And so what do? I care a lot about what I post. I don't just post to post. And if something that, like yesterday, I had a post and it wasn't right. There was something telling me to stop, and I just listened. I was like, you know what, intuition? I know I'm in the middle of a last few day launch thing for IA. I should be posting this. I should be that. I should be adhering. And I was like, nope. But if it ain't fucking good enough, I'm not gonna do it. I want to put quality out there. And you know what? I ended up posting it later the next day, and it was like, I was so proud of it because it was exactly what I wanted it to say in a very creative and innovative way. And I needed that extra day to have that seed planted. I was like, that's why I didn't post it. Oh my gosh, let me talk about this. And then it spurned this whole situation of me talking about a podcast. And then it spurned a whole other part where I was talking to one of my VIP one-on-one inner circle girls, artists, today about what was going on with her, and it totally shifted her mindset and the way that she did something, and then she got different results happening in her business tangibly. And I was just like, bing bang boogie. Like, how many shifts did I make? How one little thing, one qualitative shift, one thing that said I'm gonna hold onto my values, which is the level of standard I do things, the value I put out there into the world. And I created this foundation for me to constantly be doing this, and knowing that this piece of content, if we're just looking at it from a content perspective, that this piece of content is going to last longer than just this week. I have people liking, following from, there's like a whole new line item insight aspect when you're looking at what's going on with your page, and it's saying, oh, these people followed you from this post. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a cool new insight. And so one of them popped up from a post that I made back in May. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Didn't even know that post was still going on. And there's some of my posts that are still going because I put so much energy and effort into it. And it doesn't mean that like every single one's going to do that. No, of course not. But all I care about at the end of the day is not how everybody's receiving it, because I know I'm always, my first question out of my head when it comes to posting Instagram is, number one, do I feel like posting? Is that something that's in my cards today? Number two, if it is, and if I meant to, what is something that I could say that could change one person's life? So we have talking a lot about the VIP inner circle in this episode. So let's dive a little deeper into what it is. This is my closest hands-on experience where we dive into getting super duper fucking aligned with your passions, building a business with multiple and passive income streams, diversifying your product suite. So we're not only selling tattoos, we'll be selling art, education, merch, coaching, programs. If you're opening up a shop, that's what we can do as well. We refine your personal brand to a T. We understand how to create that personal brand strategy just for you. Because as you, the you who you are, the uniqueness that you are, you work in a very different way than a lot of others. So that's why in my programs, I never have a one size fits all. That's why in this inner circle VIP one-on-one container, this is where I dive so deep into your business to create the strategies around who you are, how you uniquely work, and what works for you so that you can make the massive shifts within your business. We're going to organize and automate your systems. If you want to build a team, we can build a team and a team culture. A team culture, a brand culture really creates a team that is in love with the mission, the movement that you hold. That's what we want our team to love. We want them to be an extension of the brand, not just working for us, working with us to create higher consciousness within the collective. We're talking about more soulmate clients and soulful sales. So this is a very hands-on container, and it's not for the faint of heart. This is definitely about qualitative shifts. We're talking about the inner work, the outer work, the quantum work, all of the stuff. But when I say we're going to collapse time, we're going to collapse time around where you are and where it is you want to go. So this is our 6-month container. If you are interested, click the link in the bio. We have 2 slots, I believe, left. We had someone time. We're so excited. Another person. And so we have 2 slots left. And I would say fill out the form and let's make that connection call. Talk to you soon. What is one thing that they could hear, that someone could hear, that could change the whole trajectory of their day? That's all I want to say, and I don't care if it gets to 1 million people. I don't care if it gets to 5 people. If it gets to that one person that needed to hear it, that one person can change the entire world. I have no idea who I'm influencing, so I want to do it. I want to take that responsibility. I don't want to take that responsibility lightly. And so I put out a massive amount of value. And the only thing I care about is me being proud of it. I don't need everybody else to validate that. But that's because I've created this long-term thing. I've created this long-term horizon, this growth mindset that, like, wow, how nice it is after 12 years of only feeling worthy when I receive validation from others, especially from social media. Now I'm like, I only care about what I think and what my values are and what my standards are. And that's going to build a sustainable business. I only care what that looks like. If it felt good to put that out there, whether or not anybody even saw it, then that means it's a fucking success. And that's how I look at success. So that's number 4 we're leading into, is celebrating. It's not that you're not doing enough. You're doing it, all the things. You're doing enough. You're doing a lot. It's mostly that you're not pausing to enjoy your growth and celebrating what you have done. We're always on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. It's like, oftentimes, and I don't get me wrong, I'm guilty about this, going back to social media just because I teach so much of it. It's, it's like we post the thing and we keep checking back, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's not doing as well as I expected. Just like a launch. Oh, it's not doing as well as I expected. And then we automatically think it's a failure. And then we start to think, oh, everybody's judging us. They're all judging me because it didn't do well. And so we're starting, like, we start to lose our power, and we start to lose our magnetism. When I celebrate right away, when I'm looking at a post and I'm like, it's so good, I did so good, like, I'm so fucking proud of myself, that sounded so good, like, it's right on point, it's very catchy, it's for me, it's like, oh, if it hits a beat, right, if I'm doing it in a reel, I'm like, oh, that hits a beat, and it makes me feel something, I know I'm creating an emotional connection with someone, and I'm like, oh, this feels good, and like 2 people saw it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm like, oh, dang. But at the end of the day, I was so proud of the thing. It's like, cool, I'm going to use that proudness, I'm going to celebrate that. And I normally, now that there's like a huge boundary I have with social media, but every time I do post something, I'm like, yeah, that shit's good. And then I celebrate it, but I put my phone down and I don't look back. And I try, like, especially on the weekends, like, there's no looking back. Like, I'm not trying to be looking at social media on the weekends. I'm trying to live my life. Why? Because when I can know how to celebrating properly means living your life. If you are always going back to the social media to numb out, that is your sure sign that's telling you that there's something missing within your life that you feel like you need fulfilling. Not a bad thing. Sometimes it's just as good, it's just perfect enough for you just to notice. Don't get me wrong, I don't often, but I do have moments of doom scrolling. It's very, 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 very rare. I'm very aware of it. I'm like, oh, doom scroll, get off right away. And I don't make it mean anything. I'm just like, nope, get off. We're going to go do something more productive. And whatever that means, that just means that I'm not going to be looking at my phone. And what I also love is that the universe has gifted me with ocular headaches. And what that means is that if I'm looking at a screen for too long, especially focusing so hard on something, and I can, like, especially when it's frustration mingled with what I'm doing, because I'm like trying to get something done, or it's not getting it done like at a certain amount of time and I don't have enough time, and there's all these little things, and I'm so acutely aware of my body because I practice so much somatic healing and somatic meditation that I'm so hyper aware of every little tingle, every little moment within my body. I know everything that's going on inside of my body. I can feel it all the time. And when something starts to happen like that, I get an ocular headache and I'm like, whoop, gotta put down. It's done. So I've been gifted. I mean, I don't love these ocular headaches, don't get me wrong, but I choose to look at it like a gift, right? Like my back hurting. That is a gift. It's trying to give me a sign. Your body is telling you things. The feelings in your body are messages. Listen to them. Okay? I love you guys so, so much. I hope that was super duper supportive for you. 5 things to do when you can and canceled on, and 4 identity shifts that you should be making right meow. I felt like I needed to mash those 2 together because they felt just right. So I didn't want to make them 2 separate podcasts. But I love you guys so, so much. I hope you have the best day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.